If someone told me that love could feel like both salvation and suffocation, I would have laughed in their face. But that was before I married him, the Omega doctor who could bend this entire city with just one order, while I was nothing more than a fragile alpha scholar who spent his life buried in books. The world wasn't kind to alphas like me. I didn't have the sharp jawline of a fighter, the strength of a protector, or the commanding aura that made others obey. My professors called me brilliant, but brilliance didn't matter when your body shook under the weight of a simple fever. My family whispered that I was a disappointment, an alpha without the fire. And yet, somehow, he chose me. Elias Rivera. The name itself carried weight in New York City. He wasn't just a doctor, he was the doctor. The Omega with enough influence to silence entire boards of directors, to bend policy with his words, to inspire both fear and respect from colleagues twice his age. People bowed to him, even alphas stronger than me. And then there was Minoa Carter, the soft-spoken academic with ink stains on my fingers and lungs that sometimes betrayed me. No one in their right mind understood how we ended up married. Sometimes neither did I. It started on a rainy evening, the kind of rain that drowns the sound of your own thoughts. I had been caught outside the library without an umbrella, coughing into the crook of my arm, when a sleek black car stopped by the curb. The tinted window rolled down, and there he was, the Omega who never looked small even when seated. "You're going to collapse if you keep standing in the rain like that," Elias had said, his voice sharp but not unkind. I should have been offended. I should have told him I didn't need help. But instead, I got into the car. Maybe because my lips were turning blue. Maybe because no one had looked at me with that mixture of annoyance and concern before. That was the first time Elias pulled me out of the storm. I didn't know he'd keep doing it for the rest of my life. Our marriage wasn't a fairy tale. In fact, it wasn't even supposed to happen. Elias had been pressured into settling down, to silence critics who said an Omega of his caliber was too independent, too dangerous without a partner. And me? I had been convenient, a scholar with no political ties, no family power, nothing that could ever threaten him. "Don't fall in love with me," Elias told me on our wedding night, his voice cold, his body rigid even as he shared my bed. I laughed bitterly, though my chest ached. Don't worry. Who would fall in love with someone who terrifies them? But the lie was fragile, because even then I already had. New York didn't sleep, but our penthouse often felt like a mausoleum. He worked late shifts at the hospital, sometimes not coming home until dawn. I studied until my eyes blurred, writing papers that no one outside of the academic world would ever read. The space between us grew louder with each passing night. And yet, every time my body betrayed me, very time fever burned through me or the old weakness in my chest returned, it was Elias's hand I felt against my forehead. Elias's voice calling me back. Elias's anger that I had hidden my pain. "You think weakness makes you unworthy?" he once spat, pacing the bedroom while I lay pale and trembling under the covers. "You think I care about strength? I'm surrounded by alphas with muscle and power and arrogance every damn day. Do you know what they all lack? They don't know how to stay. But you stay." I didn't know whether to cry or kiss him, so I did both. But love in this world was never just love. There were whispers. People sneered behind Elias's back, calling me the fragile alpha, the scholar husband who couldn't protect his Omega. They said Elias had shackled himself to weakness. They said I was an anchor dragging him down. And sometimes late at night, when his back was turned, his shoulders tight with exhaustion, I wondered if they were right. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late winter, snow piled in gray heaps on the sidewalks, when Elias collapsed at the hospital. They said he had been working for 72 hours straight, leading emergency surgeries, organizing staff, fighting for patients who had no one else to fight for them. His body finally gave out. When I arrived, he was unconscious on a stretcher, pale lips parted, his perfect hands limp. Doctors whispered urgently around him, but none dared to make a decision without him. It was Ironic was the one who always saved lives, and now no one knew how to save him. I didn't think. I stepped forward, trembling, my glasses fogging with the heat of the room. My voice broke, but it carried. "Do whatever it takes. He is not just your colleague. He is my husband. The room fell silent. Some looked at me with pity, others with doubt. But I stood there, my heart in my throat, refusing to move. I didn't care if they thought I was weak. I didn't care if they thought Elias deserved someone stronger. All I cared about was that he lived. And maybe, just maybe, that was the moment Elias realized something he had tried so hard to ignore. When he woke, hours later, his voice was hoarse, his body drained. I sat beside him, holding his hand as if it were the only thing keeping me tethered to the world. "You should have let them handle it," he whispered. "No," I said firmly, surprising even myself. "You're my husband, Elias. I'm not strong, I'm not powerful, but I will not let you go. Not now. Not ever." His eyes softened, the walls he had built around himself cracking. For the first time, I saw not the doctor, not the Omega who commanded the city, but the man lonely, tired, aching to be understood. He squeezed my hand weakly. "Damn it, Noah. Why did you have to fall in love with me?" I laughed through my tears. "Because someone had to." That was when everything began to change. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, Elias stopped telling me not to fall in love. He stopped pretending he didn't care. And I stopped pretending that my weakness made me unworthy. Because maybe love wasn't about power or strength. Maybe it was about choosing each other again and again, even when the world thought we didn't make sense. And somehow that was the strongest thing of all. The winter that almost broke us was also the one that rebuilt us. After Elias's collapse, things didn't magically transform overnight, no. Life was never that kind. But something inside both of us shifted, like a fault line finally giving way, allowing two separate worlds to merge into one. He no longer came home and shut himself off with exhaustion and silence. Instead, even on the days when his coat smelled of antiseptic and grief, he would sink beside me on the couch, letting me untangle the knots in his shoulders with clumsy hands. Sometimes he would fall asleep in the middle of my reading, his head resting on my thigh, his breath warm against my skin, and I, weak, trembling, fragile, felt like the strongest man alive when I held him like that. But the world doesn't forgive love that challenges its order. It started with whispers in the press. Someone leaked our marriage license. Headlines painted me as a scandal, the fragile alpha who snared the city's greatest Omega. Some claimed I had tricked Elias into marriage, others that he kept me out of pity, a charity case paraded in a penthouse. At first, I thought Elias would ignore them. He always had before. But when the board of directors at his hospital began questioning his judgment, things turned darker. "You should step back from me," he said one night, his jaw tight, his hands clenched. "Let them think this marriage was a mistake. Protect yourself. Protect myself." As if he didn't realize he was myself. "No," I said quietly, staring him down even though my voice shook. "I won't leave you just because the world can't understand us. I won't let them define what we are." His eyes softened, but his shoulders remained rigid. "You don't understand what it's like to be me, Noah. They've always seen me as too ambitious, too strong for an Omega. And now, with you, they'll say I'm reckless. They'll say I can't lead. And what if they're wrong?" I whispered. For the first time, Elias looked uncertain. The man who faced down operating rooms and crises without flinching actually hesitated. And that was when I realized wasn't invincible. He was human. He needed someone to believe in him, not because of his perfection, but because of his cracks. So I kissed him, right there in the silence of our too-bright kitchen, and I promised him that no matter how loud the world screamed, I would scream louder. The chance came sooner than expected. A health scandal broke out in the city. Corruption, negligence, and greed had left hundreds of patients without the care they needed, their lives dangling in the balance. The media exploded, the government scrambled, and all eyes turned to the one man capable of cutting through the chaos, Elias Rivera. But instead of celebrating him, they attacked him. The board leaked lies, claiming Elias prioritized personal matters over patients. They pointed at me, the fragile alpha husband, as the distraction that supposedly weakened him. That night, our penthouse became a war zone. Elias stood by the window, shoulders squared, his voice low and dangerous. They want me to step down. And you're going to let them? I asked, my heart pounding. His jaw clenched. If it keeps you safe. Safe from what? My voice cracked. From being your husband? From standing by your side? Elias, don't you get it? I don't need safety. I need you. The silence was unbearable. Then he turned, and for the first time I saw him truly break. His eyes shimmered, his mask of control slipping as he whispered, I don't know how to be with someone without hurting them. I stepped closer, trembling but firm. Then hurt me, Elias. Break me. Love isn't about leaving before you can damage someone. It's about staying even when you do. Something shattered between us that night, not us, but the walls he had built. The next morning, he walked into the press conference not as a doctor groveling for approval, but as a man unashamed of his truth. My name is Elias Rivera, he declared before the flashing cameras. I am an Omega, I am a doctor, and yes, I am married to an alpha scholar who does not fit your expectations of power. But let me make this clear. My husband is not my weakness. He is the reason I rise every morning to keep fighting. If you think love makes me unfit to serve this city, then perhaps it is this city that is unfit for love. The uproar was immediate. Some raged, some mocked, but others listened. And for the first time, I realized the weight of his words could tilt the world. When he came home that night, exhausted but unbowed, I kissed him so fiercely that even he gasped for breath. You just painted a target on your back, I whispered. Then let them aim, he murmured. Because I have you. Time didn't heal everything. The criticism didn't vanish, and the struggles of being two men in a world obsessed with roles never fully disappeared. But something inside us grew stronger, steadier, like a tree weathering storm after storm and still finding a way to bloom. There were nights I still doubted myself, still heard the whispers calling me weak. But then Elias would reach for me, his powerful Omega hands trembling just slightly, and I would remember, weakness isn't in the body, it's in running away. And I wasn't running anymore. And there were nights Elias still buried himself in his work, still tried to carry the weight of the city on his shoulders. But then I would tug him into my arms, press my lips to his ear, and remind him, he didn't have to be strong alone. Years later, as spring unfurled over New York, I found myself walking into the hospital not as a bystander this time, but as his partner. He had insisted on including me in a lecture, introducing me not just as my husband, but as Professor Noah Carter, whose research has changed the way we understand social medicine. The applause was real. The respect was real. And when Elias's hand found mine on stage, squeezing tightly, I felt the world tilt not because it finally approved of us, but because we no longer needed its approval. That night, lying tangled in our sheets with the city glowing beyond the glass walls, Elias whispered the words I had once never thought I'd hear. You saved me, Noah. I laughed softly, pressing my lips to his temple. I thought you saved me. Maybe we saved each other. His voice was warm, thick with sleep. And maybe that's the point. Love wasn't meant to be a battlefield, but sometimes it became one anyway. And when it did, the real victory wasn't in who stood strongest, it was in who refused to let go, even when the world begged them to. I was just a weak scholar alpha. He was the most powerful Omega doctor in the city. And somehow, against all odds, that was exactly why we fit. Because power without gentleness is tyranny, and gentleness without power is silence. But together we were everything. And maybe that was what love was supposed to be. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.